get the meeting started. Welcome. The first order of business is establish a quorum. We have a quorum of the board members present. We have everyone here tonight. I call this Medina Valley ISD special board meeting to order at 6:00 p.m. on October 11th, 2023. The next item on the agenda is pledge allegiance to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. If you'll please join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment, and we have no one signed up, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda. Discussion and possible action items. Consider a nomination resolution for the 2-year term on the Medina County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Dr. Kalos.
Yes, so we would like to recommend Cindy Malone for this position. Ms. Malone has been an attorney with AT&T for the past 30 years, and she is due to retire in December. So she's looking for something to do. She's been involved in the community. She's been appointed to the City of Castroville Joint Airport Zoning Board. She's secretary at her church, so she's been on some numerous boards, so she has experience with being on boards. And I will point out that the city of Castroville nominated her last night, so we would like to do the same thing as our district representative.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments? And if not, I'll look for a motion.
I, Matt Castelloni, move to nominate Cynthia Malone for the 2-year term beginning January 2024 for the Medina County Appraisal District Board of Directors.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Thank you, Bill, your second motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All board members voted for it, and the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is elementary attendance zones with Mr. Bob Templeton.
Good evening, Board President, members of the board, Dr. Kalos. Tonight, I will just do a kind of a brief overview with some starter plans to help kind of get the ball rolling on the opening for the next elementary school. I've got just a really brief PowerPoint to kind of go through some options that have been created as starter options. I also have my software available that is able to hook up, and we can look at the growth locations, the current zones, and it's got the students that are geocoded in there. It's very similar software that was used when we did the single member district software, so we can look at some information through that. You're well aware, we continue to be one of the fastest growing school districts in the San Antonio region. This is from our second quarter report, and this is just a snippet of what we presented to the bond committee a couple of weeks ago. The annual closing rate is about 21, almost 2,200 single family homes per year. The start rate is slowed just a little bit because of the rising interest rates, but we're seeing developers still continue a very strong pace with development of new projects. So if your lot development is still strong, the future lot count, you have the highest number of future lots in the San Antonio region. So the reality is, even with this headwinds with higher inflation, higher interest rates, the reality is the region is still growing population. We're still adding houses. It's just a little bit of a slowdown right now with sales and new contracts. Now, when we break it out by zones, you can see the Lacoste zone, which is the zone where the new elementary is located within that Lacoste zone. It's the most active with over 600 starts. Second most active is the Tranco Northern Elementary Zone, and then Lucky Ranch and Ladera, both at 340 plus starts per year. So you've got really strong activity in 4 of your 5 elementary zones. Here's just a quick look. The green shaded areas are the active subdivisions. The yellow are the futures. You can see that heavy concentration of growth in the kind of eastern corridor, this area here. Of course, the new elementary is down in this location. And so very strong activity. The projections still heavy growing, almost 10% for the next 2 years. And then it drops down to about 9%, but the reality is we're still growing about 900 to 1,000 kids a year for the foreseeable future. Again, it may move down a little bit, but it's going to move back up when those interest rates get back down. At some point, they're likely going to get back down to that 5 to 6% rate. That might be a few months down the road. Here's what it looks like at the campus level. You can see we've got the opening. We're going to show the plans for that next. But you've got 4 of your 4 elementary schools that are going to be right at 1,000 kids next year. The reality is we're growing almost 400 to 500 elementary kids per year. Now, when we do just a quick look at what Elementary 6 is going to provide, it does give us possibly about a 2-year window. So with the opening of Elementary 6, we redistribute the zones. That can give us about 2 years, but you'll see just in that next horizon, by 2026, 2027, we're going to be back to having 3 to 4 elementary schools that are right at 1,000 students. Now, this is just a starter plan. This is just meant to kind of illustrate what could happen. And I took some liberties working with the administrative team, but to kind of just give us a starter option. The dark green zone is the the Lacoste zone, and the yellow zone would be the proposed elementary number 6 zone. One of our challenges is we're going to be relieving a lot of students out of Lacoste just because of that silos location and the density of students there that are currently there. So it's going to allow us to fill up silos or the elementary number 6 fairly quickly, but it's going to move a lot of kids out of Lacoste. So this is my attempt to kind of backfill Lacoste. There again, we can throw rocks at me in the plan right now because this is purely just to kind of start the process. The kind of brown zone would be the Lucky Ranch proposed zone under this plan. I am going across the highway here and grabbing some of this area north to fill into the elementary number 6 zone. Unfortunately, I'm grabbing, shouldn't say unfortunately, the reality is I'm grabbing this section here to come into Lacoste because I need to relieve Ladera, Lucky Ranch, Lacoste. Those are 3 schools that I'm trying to, help with their overcrowding with that elementary number 6. Now, I've also decided to look at an option to move some of the Lacoste zone into the Castroville zone. So this is an area where we decided to look at an option here to move this from Lacoste into Castroville to help utilize some of the Castroville space. So my attempt is to get as much utilization across all of our 6 of our elementary schools with this opening. Here's kind of a zoomed in look of the Lacoste Castroville. It's the Medina River West neighborhood. From a proximity perspective, they would actually be a little closer to Castroville, and maybe that's a normal path that they might be taking. So this might be a solution to think about. This is then kind of looking at the plan again. You can see I've got some of the neighborhoods. This Champions Park, Petranco Creek, Tierra Bueno, West Point Gardens. Under this scenario, I am moving this to Lacoste. Again, I'm needing to pull some kids out of Ladera, so this is my way to pull kids out of Ladera. I'm pulling a significant chunk also out of Lucky Ranch, and then removing a great number out of Lacoste. This is what this plan does with the forecast. So the silos, elementary number 6 would open at about 833 students. you can see Petranco, I wasn't able to really do anything with Petranco because of its far north location. And so it's staying at that 979 range for next year. In year 2, it gets over 1,070. And you can see by 2025, we're hanging in there. We've got really good utilization across our 6 elementary zones. But when we get to 2026, we're back at multiple campuses over 1,000. This is the demographic breakdown with this plan. This is the economically disadvantaged percentages for the campuses. Now I've got a second plan, slightly different. It definitely removes less kids out of Ladera. So it removes less out of Ladera and still tries to maximize the silos, and we're trying to backfill Lacoste to some degree. I am still using this area here to move from Lacoste into Castroville so that I can utilize the Castroville space a little bit better. And then it's, relieving Lucky Ranch, Ladera, and Lacoste. This is the same plan as the first plan, little different here. And the forecast numbers very similar in that we get through the 25-26 year. Petranco is still going to be over 1,000 students in year 25-26, but by the 26-27 year, we are, full at Castroville. We're pretty full at Lacoste, and then we've got our other 4 elementary schools that are well over 1,000 kids. This is the reality that, you're going to need multiple elementary schools over this next 5 to 7 year period. Now I can go back and we can look at those plans in a little more detail. I can pull up my software if we wanted to explore numbers in those small regions. I know I went through those plans pretty quickly. Definitely entertain whatever you'd like me to look at.
So the pieces that are carved out of for Lacoste there, Champions Park and all that, where do those kids go now? They're going to Lucky Ranch now?
This group is going to Lucky Ranch, and this group is going to Ladera.
I think I have the same concern.
No, that's just busing a long way.
It is.
And the traffic problems on 90s make that a challenge.
I wish I was able to come up with the star plan, but my goal was, man, if I don't move anything out of there, which that's going to mean Ladera and mainly Ladera. That campus is going to be.
No, I'm confident you've looked at a lot of scenarios. I mean, it's easy for me to sit up here and say things like that, and I know you've done a bunch of work here. That's my concern is just the movement of those kids to Lacoste.
What is the current map now? And the reason why I ask, how many students in the current map are from the areas that propose to go to the silos?
Okay, now the color scheme is a little different. Let me zoom in here and I'll show you the current zones right now. Actually, this dark, the burnt orange is Ladera, the brown is Lucky Ranch, and the green is Lacoste.
So of the non-Lucky Ranch subdivision, West Point Garden and the one next to it, how many students go to Lucky Ranch?
So these are the elementary students. So in this neighborhood, I'll do it neighborhood at a time. This is 40 elementary students. And this group is 92. We'll just say we'll be close to 150. And this is 118. Yeah.
Now, the reason why reason why I'm asking, I can definitely see the one that has the 150 go to the silos because it's right down the road from the silos. But the ones from Lucky Ranch to the one next to it, I mean, that is less than 150 kids. And just like Mr. Matt said, that you're gonna be busing them further away from their home and having problems. And the reason why that's my district, and I know the majority of the 40 students who live in West Point Park, that's where I live. And I know that would not be very helpful for them.
So the trade-off, everything has a trade-off. Then the trade-off would be if they stay at Lucky Ranch, then it would be portables. Or it's because it's gonna go beyond that capacity, which, like I said, it's just a trade-off. And that's the neat thing, I can draw the plan and we can look at that and I can show you what the impact would be.
So basically, that's 10, 12 classrooms of kids, right? That we need to find a space for, 250 kids, more or less.
Correct, that's about 11, 12.
Mhm.
If you go up north of that, how many of those kids are going to Ladera right now? I'm just trying to figure out, because all those kids are gonna have to be transportation, or most of them, how is it?
Correct.
So, yeah, this block here that is currently going to Ladera, that is total number of this circle block is 392.
We're talking 650 kids. 650.
Is there an even swap though, where you take some of Ladera's kids and either put them in Lacoste or in the silos? Rather than have them jump over the section?
Well, yes, Lacoste, the silos was right at 833, which is almost full with what we have now. So if we add those two, then you'd be adding portables. Our challenge, and there again, this is me working at it from a purely numbers perspective. And so it's good that we can do this together because your perspective is to look at it from your neighborhoods and your district and your perspective. My thinking is, how can I use the Lacoste classroom space that's in the building? So I'm trying to figure out a way to take advantage of the seats in the classrooms that are at Lacoste without having to use the portables, because you may have to use the portables or choose, but the portables then are a direct cost of added cost when you've got space at a building. It's just not, the timing is what's throwing it off. But I was gonna do just a quick run on moving this back to Lucky Ranch so you could see what that does. And the reality is we're trying to buy 3 years of time. You know, we're trying to bridge the time of when the next elementaries can come online. So that's my other thought process is I'm trying to get you as much time to when you get your next, because then you're going to be doing this again. But each time you build a school, the zones become smaller and there's improvements to transportation. So down the road, this will improve quite a bit because you're going to have zones that will be more closer to some neighborhoods.
And that's my concern, is the transportation with the challenges we already have with transportation.
Can you back out to the whole district again?
Yes, I just wanted to do a quick, here is so under this movement, you know, there's a little, let me refresh that. Definitely gives us a little, still pretty good at Ladera. Lucky Ranch now gets a little more, so. I mean, you see, how much that bigger? I think
It's still
it's hard, yeah, that's still too hard to believe.
So we're not fixing much.
There we go.
By that plan, I would. How much do we still have on that map, what are the costs?
Under this, yeah, we've got this north section here. Sorry.
Where are we at on capacity at Castroville right now?
750.
And we're there?
We're there.
We're a little bit of room.
See, our challenge is, you can see Lacoste is where we have space.
No,
Its location is not convenient right now after this.
what about, looking up the northern part of the district and all the kids that are in that area that are currently going to Petrenko and moving some of those back to Castroville and some from Castroville to Lacoste?
Right, shifting around and maybe move those to let some of those areas around.
Just to free up some space at Petrenko potentially. I'm just going back to the old, the way it used to be. We had all those kids from up there were going to Castroville.
Moving that east side of Castroville over to the west and then go up and pick up more kids to the north.
Well, yeah, I mean, like right now, all that blue area, all the way to the lake
Petrenko.
goes to Petrenko. I mean, it's not much further going straight down 471 to get into Castroville,
It's a lot less traffic.
and a lot less traffic too. I mean, we've got those developments up there that historically went to Castroville. I mean, we have to free up space. We've got to lessen the load on the eastern elementaries. It's obvious we need to build elementaries.
It definitely built up Castroville.
Well, now take some of the ones from Castroville and put them at cost.
Right, the lower,
The lower,
lower half.
Yes.
Lower half.
94.
We'll put the subdivision, well, I want to, the cost, get back to that.
It's not bad. At least from the color perspective and forecast perspective, it's not bad. Well, I think we still have that up.
Yeah, we still have
that. Going to the cost, that 300 something.
Yes, it's well on that map, up in that top northeast
No,
corner.
yeah.
There's some of those kids going to the cost.
But now, what did you do to Petrenko? I mean, that's the question. Now we freed up some space and
yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's like we need to move some of it there.
now, yeah, I mean, they're all gonna be close to capacity, but just from a transportation point of view,
Right.
I think that's the best way is to go back to the more historic Castroville and Lacoste, you know, attendance zones, and then all the new areas, the new schools split those.
And this is where, I know there's still some planning that needs to take place, but I think hopefully there could be an elementary school coming online in 2027. And so you can see the distribution is pretty even across all of your campuses.
Right.
And when you get to 2027, you're if we look at it from a utilization perspective or percentage, it's almost equal.
But I think you still have.
There may still be some room
more
there.
Right.
Yeah, let's move that one back to another area.
No, sorry, the party side.
Or decide to go back to the cost.
We can move some of those kids to Petranco, well, we can move some of the Ladera kids to Petranco and those kids to Ladera, potentially.
I'm gonna set this back to its original. Now, this is basically gonna show, well, it is losing maybe some of this future growth here. We've got some future growth coming in here.
Well, that's the area we need another elementary school. We know that.
Okay, so I suspect
The cost still, but now take some off of where other schools, we got Ladera. But now we can take some of the Ladera kids to cost.
We gotta see where it fits.
Yeah.
We need to see it.
yeah, the only place to take the Ladera kids off, you definitely couldn't take these. Probably, I don't know that you would take these,
The far corner,
take these to Castroville.
on the lower part of that area.
There's just not any, hardly any kids out there.
Yeah.
This is where the majority of Ladera's kids are here.
If you look at 90 though, if you took some more off of south of 90, all the way to the west side of the district, let them go to a cost, and then you'd have more room on the north side to go to Castroville. So don't out my way out towards that.
We're trying to add kids up across at this point.
Right. No, what I'm saying is take all that pink
south
off south of 90 and make it go to the cost.
Except for the city.
Except for the city.
Except for the city.
Can you turn on the distribution that shows the neighborhoods?
Or the,
Yeah.
I can turn on the students.
Yeah, the students would be great.
Students. There we go.
Everybody-
I know there's a bunch on my way.
Yeah. So if we could take that whole little community there,
South of 90
South of
there.
90.
That's all
Right
done,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, to a cost maybe,
This,
yes. It's a little bit better.
Now we can take and add a little bit more to Castro from Ladera's
Yep.
district,
Yep.
because we took off Castro.
Well, not necessarily just to Ladera, to. from
Trying
Petranco.
to,
And that area there, yeah.
Ladera to Castroville, Lower Blue Cost.
Not really any.
Yeah.
Kids there.
Yeah, you really don't got that.
What about some more of the blue area to Castroville? What were we at?
Community.
Petranco?
what is that one really big subdivision? Is that Trinco and this Trinco? Whatever, it looks like it.
Yeah,
Then they go to Castroville.
Tranquil Ranch doesn't.
So our two places with space are Castroville and Lacoste.
Right.
So,
Where were we at with the cost there? We were still low.
It's still low.
Okay, right, if you, that, to the right of Trenco, there's a, or to the left, excuse me, the left of Trenco, there's a subdivision, and it goes to Trenco. If it goes to Castroville,
This group,
that
here,
little blue spot.
this one,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's a good number of kids, so it'll definitely.
What neighborhood is that?
It's Tranquil Ranch.
Sugar Ranch.
About 130 elementary schools.
No, but you're, I'll get the Trenco.
Yeah, this is gonna take
Which
multiple swaps to
Yeah,
get us where we need to.
Absolutely. That's better. Still needs more kids.
We still need to shift some more to the cost.
You do?
Yeah, because you've got the silos sitting here.
You know, we don't wanna take those kids to
Yeah.
a school that's not in their neighborhood.
Yeah. So we pretty much have gone around, I don't know if you, this neighborhood,
You could,
we-
that right there.
That's the apartments, so I think they're in Lacoste now, aren't they?
the cost, these apartments are, right in here?
That area there is Meridian that.
Oh, okay.
Are they currently Lacoste?
They are currently is Lucky Ranch.
Grab those, maybe. I grab all the yellow in that case. You already got two more. Right?
Yeah.
Two more spots.
Go back to it real quick.
Yeah.
That subdivision that we just had, the one right above that, would you pull that side of us? So we'll leave it here.
I'm sorry, which,
The one
which,
right there.
Yeah, the one right up in the orange, the one that's right there.
I can split this, but yeah, that would get,
You should get, I was saying to silos.
Still moving kids.
Yeah, I know. It is very
I'm more concerned about the transportation issue
You know, I
of
agree.
getting across 211
I agree.
right there with the school bus.
Are there any special programs we can move to Lacoste?
Yes. We could definitely look at
Bilingual.
bilingual.
Is that, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I would look at. If there's special programs we can move to utilize the extra space in Lacoste. If that makes sense logistically, maybe that's the thing to do. Because if we do it from just a population distribution, we're gonna be moving kids everywhere.
Right.
I mean, that still is looking rich. Trying to go big.
Brandy, how many kids would that be?
So I don't have the hard numbers here, but
Um,
if we,
we'll let you slide.
we could probably get about 100 kids if we pulled, but that's where the 14 passenger buses, because we would want them to go to their home campus and then transport them across instead of trying to bus from all the different neighborhoods to the
But
school.
we already currently do that transportation, right? To their home campus? Or they all go to a different campus now?
Yes, and that's not a good setup for the bilingual program either. So, I mean, I would like to centralize it.
No, that makes sense. So we look at doing something like that, then, I think.
And we also could look at some of our special education programs where we're oversaturated in certain areas. We could move some of our programs there. I mean, there are some things we could definitely do instructionally to alleviate some of it.
And benefit the students.
Yes.
I mean, are there other age groups, pre-K or something, where their school day is a different time or doesn't impact transportation as much?
So that would be ECSC, which is part of our special education program for our 3 and 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
We could look at maybe trying to centralize that. That's a lot of kids right now, and it's growing. Got a lot of 3-year-olds right now.
And currently, how do most of those kids get to school? Their parents? And they go to their specific zoned campus currently? I don't really like the idea of moving 3 and 4-year-olds around too much, but, you know.
Especially
I
with
think-
their siblings. I mean,
Yeah.
Correct.
I think there's some opportunities. We can move some of our kids, some of our programs to that campus.
Yeah, if we can consolidate all their assets in a specific campus for a program, you know.
We're gonna have to look at the transportation part.
Correct.
That'll present a challenge.
Now, this is gonna present a challenge transportation wise too, I think, you know. Any more kids we have to move up and down 90 every day is gonna be a challenge.
One of the things, if you don't mind, when we talked about, that area that's currently going to Ladera, that we talked about moving to Lacoste, is they're already being transported. We typically do not have traffic issues with our elementary buses, because they're the first campuses there. It's the secondary students that we struggle with getting from the eastern part of the district back to the high school or the middle schools. So, you know, since they're already being transported, we thought that the possibility of just continuing the distance to Lacoste may be a trade-off because of the amount of transportation relief we're receiving by not having to transport the Silos or Whisper Falls. We are receiving some relief in that area.
So Toby, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you saying what we had originally with the Far East side coming to Lacoste? That was
Yes.
different? Okay.
Toby, the changes that have been made, do you see any transportation concerns?
Right off the bat, the only major concerns that I mean, I wouldn't even see major, but our far western portion, Dunley in that area, bypassing Castro and taking to the cost may be a concern. Medina River West, and that area there, right now logistically, it doesn't make sense because we have those bridges down. But, so we're having to divert and go through Castro anyways. But that isn't as much of a concern. And in the southern portion that we grabbed and took to the cost isn't that much of a concern. But that far western area. And then what we did up north, with Bear Springs and those areas closer to the lake, you're right, logistically speaking, it's, by the time we battle the traffic on Petrenko Road and 381, as long as traffic doesn't increase too bad at 90 and 471, you're probably gonna wash or be pretty similar.
What's the challenge with the far west, Toby?
Obviously it's gonna add a lot more time, because some of those routes we have right now, those are some of the routes that we were able to condense, and then triple back. So now while you add that extra 15 minutes from going to Castro to Lacoste, it's gonna affect that. And then, we will have to break some routes up that go down 1343 now, and also out to Dunley. So we'll have to reroute some things, but we can go through this all night long. There's not a perfect scenario, so you're gonna have to give and take. Just deciding where you give and where you take is the.
I mean, we really don't want to split neighborhoods where there's a new elementary.
That's what I was just gonna say, as much as we can, I mean, it benefits transportation some too, but on top of that, it doesn't split kids across the street or going to two different.
Yes.
Elementary schools.
And some of the decisions, like out east, it's logistics. So if we have to go up Grossenbacher to service 3 different neighborhoods, it would only make sense that those neighborhoods go to the same elementary. Until we have more feeder and connector streets and roads, it's gonna affect us in that way as well.
If we kind of, along with what Toby said right there, what if we, all that blue area that's above Petrenko, what if we don't take that to Petrenko? And we use Petrenko as, to help alleviate the issues with overcrowding in the eastern area. I mean, if we add all that blue area to Castroville and then reallocate some,
So some of that area there is a logistic nightmare because we're utilizing Tally Road, areas like that, 381. So Petrenko is, when you're talking about behind Harlan High School.
yeah.
And
And
Calabria
with
Road.
211 there now, it's a lot easier, huh?
It is in some instances, but also 211 is already overcrowded.
And like I said, I'm just going back to historic boundaries, and I know all those areas, and there's more kids there now, but, they always used to go to Castroville.
Yeah, but they were on the bus for a long time.
Oh, I know, but they still are.
There's definitely a difference in time from just shooting down 471 or 2676 into Castroville versus Tally and Calabria area. So
Can you go up to the very top? How many kids are up at that top area there?
I'm sorry, I keep turning this thing off.
This is 67. 67 here, and then when you look out over this area, it's 23.
So what if we took What if we took all of those kids in the northern half of the county up there, took Petrenko, but Petrenko, everything south of Petrenko Road, go somewhere else, and then Castroville pick up some of those eastern areas straight down 90.
So, this area back to Petrenko?
All of that to Petrenko, but eliminate some of those bigger neighborhoods that are south of Petrenko Road. Again, this is just, I'm just thinking out loud here. I realize those neighborhoods are right next to Petrenko Elementary, but.
So you have Petrenko Oaks and Petrenko Acres that are side by side. Petrenko Acres and Petrenko Ranch. Petrenko Acres go to Castroville currently. Petrenko Ranch goes to Petrenko.
And then this may be closer back to what we had in the beginning, but
How about out here?
I would say everything up there take to Petrenko because it's logistically closer. And then utilize the Highway 90 corridor at Castroville to help get some of those kids from the east. I mean, we may have kids that live right next to a school being moved. I mean, it's gonna be the same situation we have now, like with the north side schools up there.
And one thing I had done on this plan, I had moved this area from Ladera to Petrenko.
Yeah,
Because of Ranch going back to Petrenko.
Yeah, just because it's so close. When we empty out Petrenko with that to the north, I looked at this as an opportunity to relieve Ladera. And this is going to, still
Castroville,
going to Castroville.
no.
That also provides transportation relief, because right now we are busing Hunter's Ranch to Ladera, and we are currently busing Petrenko Ranch to Petrenko. We would lose bus service from Hunter's Ranch to Ladera, and we'd still be transporting Petrenko Ranch, so if we move that to Castroville.
I don't know how detailed we wanted to get going through these scenarios tonight, but.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. I mean, it's gonna take some time to sit down and really go through scenarios.
I mean, I think to just to voice the concerns that I've heard is mainly, the transportation of kids and, obviously we're not gonna have a perfect situation, but taking kids from the far east of the county all the way to LaCoste and
Yeah.
going right past elementary schools. I mean, I realize there's no perfect situation, but,
Transportation will need some proximity for kids. It's, it's not gonna get perfect, but as much as we can.
is that what the changes you just made right there?
Yes.
That's better.
But it still puts more.
We gotta get rid of some of the kids from Petrenko
Well, this
to
is
Siders.
this right here. So this right here,
Right.
it flips the problem from Petrenko back to Ladera.
Okay, so if you put those back to Ladera and take the whole eastern part of the Ladera zone and send it to silos, no, it was pretty low in that last one.
We're in a situation, it just shows we need another one, we need two more.
Two, we need one up there in the northern part and we need one in the eastern part. $643 at silos. So we can move some more kids to silos in the short term from Ladera. already have them going to Lacoste, so that's the issue.
So, yeah, Lacoste is the dark green zone, Silos is the yellow zone. This is in my view, a pretty good way to get Lacoste number back up.
Well, if we talk about the special program that we were talking about now, that green area that was on the eastern edge for Lacoste, there, take all those kids to Silos now. Well, yeah, but Randy's saying if we can move 100 kids special program over to Lacoste, that helps, but look what it did for the other schools. The ones that we're trying to relieve, the most are relieved, at least gives us some breathing room. We still, if we can get a special program at Lacoste to add 100 there, that takes us to 659. And then we gotta get some elementary schools built. Yesterday. Can we go back to the map so we can just kind of look at that one more time? Toby, any issues you see there? Any major changes?
Another thing about the cost is they are building a subdivision that's right there on 211 and 90. It's in the cost subdivision, so that's gonna have kids there, and then over where Showplace Hill, they're working on that, so that might, depending on how fast they get them up and going, that could be more kids at the cost there too.
Absolutely.
What did we do for, on the western part of the district? We still had kids that were going to Lacoste from Gunley that.
Yeah, we still have this area coming out of Castroville.
How many students is that? It would make a difference if they go to.
Castroville. Because Castroville was still, we still had some capacity under this scenario, a lot.
It's about 200 students, 260.
I don't think I would carve off that south piece, but specifically the ones just south of 90 and Dunley. The ones that Toby was talking about. Yeah, all that right there. The other ones, I mean, you're already kind of using county roads, right, Toby, to get them there in the southern, southeast, southwestern part?
Yes, sir.
So the ones that are to the west along the 90 corridor, those are the ones we don't want to drive right past Castroville if we can avoid it. Yeah, those right there would be perfect. I know, but as far as you're looking at balance across the other ones, this is the best balance we've had. I mean, the cost is still low, but we do have a bunch of subdivisions coming online, and we're going to look at special programs for Lacoste.
So yeah, that number could be 100 higher. If the bilingual number is.
Which would pull kids out of,
It pulled a handful of 20, 25, 30 kids out of the other zones.
right. Ladera's gonna be growing quick, but we know we have to get another elementary in that part.
And I think the objective is to try to get through the 26, 27 year.
Right.
So, and hope 27 will be the year that a new elementary or two could come online.
Well, just knowing where those subdivisions are coming, there's opportunity to easily move those kids to Castroville and La Crosse from a transportation point of view, because they're on the 90 corridor. We're talking about growth in those areas. I mean, we can clean that up a little bit too, just to make it easier to define. Because there's areas there where there's no students, things like that, so.
Toby, does that fix some of the issues that you were talking about?
Yes, ma'am. I had a question. Mr. Templeton, could you zoom in on the eastern section there? The section that we had moved off of silos to the cost. Those, you can see the two red dots that were stragglers on the eastern section of that.
In here,
No, I believe it's.
Yeah, show the students there.
Oh, no, there, there's still is.
Just two dots there.
So, situations like that where you have just a handful of kids, logistically, it may be better for those two because we're already going down Grossenbacher Road, and attaching those to, Lucky Ranch. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
okay, yeah.
And I'm not even certain if they utilize transportation, but from a transportation standpoint, that would make more sense.
Yeah, and that doesn't change the numbers tremendously, so that's what I was saying. I think there's opportunity to take this as a base and clean it up a little bit on just looking at the actual student where they actually live.
And get some clarification on programs that could be moved.
Correct.
That affects
Correct.
the campuses.
I mean, still not ideal, but better than moving kids from 1604 all the way to La Crosse. And granted, we're still having to move kids from the northern part of the district, but now we're taking most of them to Tranquil instead of Castroville, which is closer. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, if we can look at special program opportunities for La Crosse, I think this it looks like it could work for the short term, till we can get something built.
When having those buses go, taking that northern section back to the Tranquil, it's nice is having those buses in that area for secondary trips. Castroville, there's not, there's being in that area where we can go east if necessary or back north, where our biggest populations are, is nice.
Like I said, I think this is a good base to iterate off of and build refine.
It's a good start.
And I mean, like I said, I don't want to discredit the work that anybody's done. It's easier for us to just sit here and point and talk, but.
I think this is a good start right here.
Yeah, and the plan that I started with was in no means meant to be planned. It was purely meant just to get the ball rolling. That was all it was.
Absolutely. There's so many factors.
I've done this for so many years. There's not one right answer. It's trying to find the better solution, because there's not a right one.
Right.
It's just the consequences, the trade-offs, the logistical side to it, because that is a very important side, is the logistical side.
Well, I mean, and if we can kind of maintain these boundaries as we grow and not, move kids from one campus to another every 2 years, establish a little bit of continuity for the family to continue at one place, we kind of got to think about that too. I know that's just another factor to throw in there, but, you do have siblings and things like that, so.
Dr. Collis refreshed me too on the capacities that we're using in here are the building capacities. So we might want to look at what is the maximum capacities with portables. Right. So that just to have in in our mindset, okay, is it even feasible to put 4 portables on a side and get 3 years? I'm not saying you should do that, other than what's the number of what would be termed the max capacity versus what I believe is in here is functional or kind of building.
Yeah, those are the buildings.
Yeah, so-
Not portable.
Not with portables, so then if we knew because some sites can't handle portables because of size and where
Castroville could not.
can't handle portables, so that number for them is fixed versus maybe some of these others.
The cost would be tight too. I'm just thinking of cafeterias.
Yeah, no, those
And
are,
it's more important to look at what the cafeteria is capable of handling than looking at portables, adding to it, because you have to feed them. That's,
What was, can you go back to the numbers real quick?
Now, isn't there an apartment complex being built on Masterston and 211? That's like 295 units?
Yeah, we've got apartments in here and single family features in here.
Okay.
yeah, so the growth numbers are, I think, included in that.
Yes,
So that's,
Yeah, I
depending on.
know we talked about subdivisions, but.
Yeah.
there is apartments growth in here as well.
Gotcha.
Which typically are starter homes for kids or families with elementary kids. So,
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for all your work.
Very
It's a
welcome.
good starting point. We appreciate it very much. And we'll move on to our next item, which is a Team of 8 workshop. It's Dr. Kilos.
Yes, so at our last workshop, we discussed briefly the good governance handbook. And so the board had some homework assigned to them after that meeting. Went back and reviewed our current operating procedures and board norms and gave us some feedback on what we should have in our good governance handbook. So we have that for y'all tonight to review. Add any more feedback, any comments, any questions. So we will open the floor up and tell you a few minutes to review it first.
yeah, I don't know how we want to go through. I had one question, reviewed earlier was specifically related to putting the items on the agenda. Give me a second to find it. Page 4. Page.
page 4.
Oh, no, this was related to how the superintendent will work with,
Developing the board agenda.
yeah,
Page 6.
page 6. In consultation with board president, the superintendent shall prepare the agenda for all board meetings, that's normal. Any board member may request that a subject be included on the agenda for the meeting, that's normal. The one was, and this was explained a little further in this paragraph, but I just wanted to get clarification. Before the official agenda is finalized for any meeting, the superintendent shall consult the board president to ensure that the agenda and the topics included meet the board president's approval. But then later, it says that the board president shall not have the authority to remove from the agenda a subject requested by a board member without board member's specific authorization. So I guess that kind of clarifies that, but to me, I thought it was a little bit.
Well, yeah, we need to look at that with our policy as well, because our policy states a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Because it just seemed like, president's approval, but then at the same time, it has that last statement in there. And it was always my understanding that anything we requested would either be explained to us to a detail that we no longer needed it on the agenda, or we would be told when it would be put on the agenda.
Correct. Yes.
And that was
that's how
the
our
one.
policy reads.
Yeah, so
We need to-
that's the only thing was that's the only concern I had was that sentence.
We'll need to look at that, section of it and make sure that it aligns with our policy.
So I feel like those two paragraphs came straight from board policy. 'Cause I
Yeah, we'll double check.
Mhm.
If that's the case, it just seems kind of a little bit contradictory to me,
Yeah.
Right.
you know?
Should be-
How do you think that would be better worded?
I think it's more of what he just said.
I think the agenda topics, I mean, I don't even know,
Well, it does say, or schedule for deliberation at an appropriate time in the near future.
yeah, I mean, like I said, the board president's approval is the part that seems kind of dubious to me. I don't understand. I mean, I thought everything would automatically either be put on the agenda or explained to us to the level we no longer, that we would agree that it didn't need to be on the agenda.
And that may be something that we need to look at our policy.
Policy,
and
that's
change. If
why-
that's what we need to do, we can do that, for
Correct,
sure.
yeah, I mean, because I know we did make changes originally at some point in the board history. It took 2 board members to put something on it. And we changed it at some point where it was just a single, which I like.
Right,
Then everybody, then we don't have to risk communicating with other board members outside of an open meeting to get things put on there. So
right, right.
I just recommend that we look at that statement.
Okay,
But one thing I did see was who has the authority once a agenda item is put on the agenda to remove it? I didn't see that, and I haven't, maybe I missed it in the policies, but who has that authority?
Well, it says it has to have the board member's specific authorization to remove it.
Mhm.
It does say that at the end of that
That was the
paragraph.
individual who wanted to discuss. it.
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Absolutely.
And situations, examples of that are, we may go to Beth or whoever the president is at the time and say, I'd like this on the agenda.
Mhm.
But then we get an explanation of something that we were trying
You asked
to discuss, and we'll say, okay, that's perfect, I don't need it on the agenda
Right,
anymore.
and generally if that happens, I'll ask before we do the agenda, do you still want this on the agenda? No, I've had it explained to you, so I don't need it to be on the
So it's
agenda.
gonna
So
be
then that's,
arbitrary to disregard. It has-
well, yeah, it can, no, I mean, it has to.
It has to come from the person that originally requested it.
it. Yeah.
Personally, I didn't see anything else on here that I couldn't go along with. I mean, it just sounded like, I mean,
Best practice type.
best practice kind of things. I mean, I know there's always situations, God forbid, that we get into the situation in some other school boards, things where we start voting on social issues and things like that, and, we're still going to recognize the vote of the board as a whole. But, there may be issues that personally we're, things socially, I want to make sure that we can express our opinions on the matter in discussion and things like that,
It does say that.
I mean, I want to be able to disagree until we agree, basically, you know what I'm saying? And personally not be happy about it after the fact, but still support what the board did.
And I think that's in here.
Okay.
On, a display respect for the majority decision as the decision of the board, it's under communications.
Correct. I don't know, I'm just thinking about all the stuff we all see in the news all the time, and there's social issues that we're gonna have. Huh?
That's what we're up here for, is to have different opinions.
Absolutely.
Correct.
You supported it, that was the board's decision, and it became policy, but it doesn't mean you have to agree with it.
Right.
Personally.
Personally, right? Like, we don't
Yeah.
have to go out and actively agree with it. Like, you can see how.
I mean, I'm not gonna try to undermine the authority of the board.
Yeah.
Just, I'm again thinking out loud here. I don't think anybody would want to go out and say, no, this was the board's decision. We're gonna stick to that. Personally, I don't agree, but, because there are certain things that people feel strongly about,
Yeah, it's okay to vote no on something if you agree with it, but if it passes, then
But we have to respect,
the decision.
the decision and support the decision of the board,
Mhm. We may want to look at also under general information, just the timeline on page 9 about, evaluations. I don't know that our timeline reflects that. Since board members will evaluate the superintendent during closed session each year in February, the agenda will reflect the evaluation of the superintendent, and interim evaluation of the superintendent is conducted in September. I don't know that we ever nailed down when we don't have that scheduled quite yet. Something we need to discuss at some point.
And then the other one, I guess, the last page. The last page, it kind of starts talking about unacceptable behavior, which I understand. It talks about a school authority of school personnel. I mean, I'm sure we want this captured. I just kind of, some of this is not related to the board.
No, that is more for, it's.
District personnel and community members.
Yes, it's law, and it's actually in our policy.
And I'm sure, that was my question, if,
Yes.
it's included with this document, which is our, Board of Trustees Good Governance Handbook. I just
Right,
wanted to make sure this was the right place to state that, which
right.
it may be.
And that may go under, like public comments.
What I don't see is, these are unacceptable, and here are some of the outcomes. So it's in black and white. If you do any of these, you can be trespassed or ask us to come back or some type of punitive action. Because you gotta have the ability, if you do this will happen.
Well, it has authority of school personnel. That next one, it says any individual who displays disruptive behavior, which is unacceptable behavior, may be directed to leave district property in accordance with the appropriate board policy and legal authorities. So, and it states our policies there.
Yeah, as long as it
So it
refers
has
back to
the-
policy, I
yeah.
think we're okay. That's
Yeah,
why
so that whole section.
I thought the same thing, Jason, but then I saw that it revert back to policy, so.
Yeah.
It says we will review these every year in August, I thought it was someone, yes.
I think that's correct.
Board of Trustees will annually review and update the board's good governance guidelines in the August board meeting. I mean,
It gives new members
times
time.
change,
Well, it gives new
you know.
members time to kind of,
times change, laws change, so we gotta make sure we have an opportunity to review this.
anyone else have any questions or comments on it?
Nope.
Okay. And I guess if we do have any more questions or comments, we can email Lori and we can discuss it further. So we have some things to clean up in it, I think. That's
That's
right.
correct.
Yeah,
We'll go back and
Yeah, we'll go back and
clean up those.
clean up that and,
It's just a draft at this
Yeah, it's
point.
just
It is just a draft.
yes.
We will run it by everybody.
Yeah, and I expect as we're doing more of our scorecard stuff and all this,
Yeah. it'll
this
start
still
to
needs to evolve for a while. It's gonna be good at some point to hand to future boards
Absolutely.
as a starting point, to still have the opportunity for them to review and modify.
Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda is the one that you've been waiting for, so that would be adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I, Jason Bonnie, move to adjourn the special board meeting at 7:14 PM on October 11th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'm Matt Castellini, second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All board members voted for, and the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all.